Hi guys, and welcome to episode 1 of the Attack Heli Gunner guide. There's going to be 3 episodes in this series. The first one's going to focus on the 30mm cannon, the second one's going to focus on the TV missile, and the third one's going to be an overview of a couple of maps and a couple of tips and tricks that I've found out over the last year or so. We're going to be starting off by looking at the 30mm cannon and how you can be as effective as possible against both infantry and vehicles. So starting things off, there are a couple of things that you need to bear in mind when being in the gunner seat as a gunner for a pilot. First of all, you're entirely reliant on what they do, so as effective as you might be as a gunner, it all depends on them as a pilot. If they're not putting you in the right positions, you're not going to get as many kills, etc, etc. It also is very dependent on the map. Now for purely entertainment value, I've focused on Shanghai because you get way more kills on that map than virtually any other map in the attack chopper, so I thought that that would be the best way of displaying some of the topics that I'm talking about. So the first thing I want to talk about today is how to be really effective at killing infantry on BF4 in the attack helicopter gunner seat. This is going to predominantly rely on your actual aim with the 30mm cannon and your proficiency with the bullet, so how well you can manage your reloads and how well you can manage your ammo, because these things do run out of ammo fairly fast if you're not that accurate and there's a lot of enemies to go for. So to start off, the 2 main things that I found really useful when I started playing this game was number 1, aim at the floor around enemies to get extra splash damage, because that way, even if you do miss them, you're still going to pick up some damage and you will eventually kill more enemies that way. Secondly, if you're shooting at an angle, as you'll see in the background now, make sure you aim for the headshot. It only takes a couple of these things to take out an enemy and you're still going to get that splash damage if there's a group of them around there, so definitely aim for the head if at all possible. But when you're attacking from above, vertically looking downwards, often the splash damage method is the best, so shooting walls, the floor, maybe off a vehicle, something like that, and you will pick up more damage. Also bear in mind that shooting mines and slams in C4 is really easy to do with these 30mm cannons. They will destroy absolutely anything, and then obviously you'll pick up the splash damage through that. Make use of levolution and things like that as well to make sure that you can actually see enemies and take them out. Secondly, when shooting infantry, always make sure you prioritise your targets. So if there is somebody with a stinger and somebody with an RPG, and the stinger's locking you, then the stinger would be the one that I would shoot first. If the stinger wasn't locking you and the RPG was about to shoot you, then shoot the RPG. Just do what feels right when you're in the chopper. Shoot the person who's the biggest threat to you. If there's a stinger who's hiding behind a building and is really difficult to shoot, but there's 3 guys without stingers on a roof in front of you, I'd probably shoot the 3 guys first and then focus on the stinger, because for all you know they might have a stinger or something that you can't see. So it's always prioritising your targets. One other thing to bear in mind with the 30mm cannons is they are pretty useless against armour. By that I mean tanks, LAVs, and even the MRAP they're not that good against. So if you are trying to take down a tank, try and save a bit of ammo and just hope that the gunner gets out, tries to rep, you can take them down, or you've just got that extra few bullets in there in case something happens and you need to just finish them off for your pilot. I wouldn't really recommend wasting all of your ammo on the tank or on any heavy armour when flying around on a map. Lastly, the choice of optics I've gone for in most of my videos recently is the thermal optics. This is because they are far superior at taking down infantry, and if you can work out how to take down a helicopter from a distance, then you're really not going to have too much trouble using them. I would suggest using zoom on maps that require some longer range battles with other attack helicopters, because obviously zoom is much more effective for that sort of stuff. And remember always to shoot in bursts as well if you're doing those sort of long range battles, because you'll go through a 30 round magazine in seconds otherwise. One other thing regarding infantry is if you can't shoot an infantry, it's always worth bearing in mind that you can probably still spot them. You don't necessarily have to be aiming directly at a soldier or a vehicle to spot them. You can just be aiming to the side or close enough just to pick up that spot, and that will really help your pilot. Looking at his big map, he can see where some infantry are for you, float back down, and then you can take them out. It's always really important to spot anything you can as a pilot or a gunner, but most importantly it's the gunner's responsibility, because he's looking at the floor and doesn't have to concentrate on flying around and dodging things. The second thing I want to talk about today is shooting vehicles, in particular the attack helicopter. You'll often find on this game that if you miss a TV missile, or if your pilot has used up his ammo, or you miss his tow missile, or whatever happens, you will find yourself in a situation where you don't have the height advantage and you need to hit pretty much all of, or at least half of your 30mm to take down the enemy attack chopper. I often find whenever I'm piloting and I have a gunner who's not really that good, I find that they're not even looking in the right place when I peek over the top of a building and need to take down this said attack helicopter. So, a couple of things to bear in mind. Always have your thermal on, because this way you'll spot the attack helicopter a lot quicker, and that way, you're going to get shooting faster. If they've popped ECM, it's probably a good idea to switch back out of the thermal because you can't see due to the smoke and stuff, but I usually leave the thermal on so I can see him as soon as he pops out from behind a building. Secondly, I try and make my first few bullets hit. I don't always just hold down and just spray everywhere. I usually do a couple of double taps just to get my aim right, get my range right, and then I can obviously do a strafing run afterwards for the last 20 bullets or so, and usually that's enough to take them down. You see a couple of examples in the background while I'm talking about this. Finally, make sure you're switching between your TV missile and your 30mm as much as possible. The best way to do this would be to fire your say you're in a battle with a helicopter, the best thing to do would be fire some 30mm, try and get a bit of damage on him, fire a TV missile while you're reloading your 30mm, and then by the time you get back you got your 30mm again. If the helicopter you're shooting is disabled or low damage, there's not much point in firing a TV, just finish him off with the 30mm, and if it's the other way around, go with the TV to help you out. The TV also is a lot better for range and for sneaking up on an attack helicopter because he can't obviously hear that thing coming, it's not a lock-on. And that's pretty much it for the first episode of this guide. I'm not going to go really into too much more detail with the 30mm. The main thing that I would concentrate on if you're already quite good is your aim against attack helicopters and trying to be as proficient as possible with your ammunition. I still find it fairly difficult shooting attack helicopters at range with the thermal and not with the zoom, but sometimes if I'm on a good day I can do 40 or 50 damage quite comfortably to an attack helicopter. Obviously if my pilot's on target as well, we can perform quite a formidable team, and that puts up some pretty decent kill streaks, as you see posted on my channel quite a lot. Shanghai would be the best map for you to try this out. Other good maps would be Dawnbreaker, possibly Firestorm or Caspian Border, as long as you're not too bothered about having to respawn a fair bit because of the camping AA guns you find on that map. And a couple of other DLC maps tend to be quite fun as well. Hopefully you found part 1 of this guide useful. If you did, please leave a like and keep an eye out for the second one that will be coming out soon. That will be focusing more on TV missiles and how to be efficient with those, helping you with your aiming, and a couple of other tips and tricks along the way. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, and I'll catch you in the next episode.